angle this better. Okay, let me get it shared. Get it copied. I'm just sharing it to the Facebook group. We are live right now, though. Everyone's listening to us.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's on.
Yeah, if anyone clicks on it, they'll be listening. I get a little bit confused because no, I don't want to go to that one. The Life After Loss group doesn't let me share stuff from it. I can share stuff to it, but not from it. And
So which one is this?
This is the CPS reform one. I try to post in this one first and then share from this one to the other one because I can't do it the reverse. That's not what I was going for.
Right. Is it recording?
Yes,
Oh,
we're
really?
live.
Okay. Well, while you're doing this, I want to say a prayer because I want to pray for God's guidance on giving us the right words, the right thoughts, and the right actions to please Him and to stand up for the truth and what is right, and give us the courage and will to, and what we need to talk about, what we can do, one voice at a time, together, what we can do one voice at a time, because and what we can do about what is out of our control, and trying to nurture and take care of ourselves and love ourselves for those of us that have been hurt by CPS. And I pray for God give us the words, the comfort of what to say and to stand together. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Um,
So what I titled this was the mother and grandmother or grandparents perspective, because you also went through what I went through, but it was with your grandchildren.
oh yes,
My kids were your grandchildren,
and
so
they've changed the law to make it worse for blood.
where grandparents can't legally fight for
A third party cannot
grandchildren.
fight for the children.
Yeah,
Um,
even if they're a blood relative.
blood relative, right? And that you cannot fight for. You cannot fight for your grandchildren.
Not in the state of North Carolina.
Right. You can't get a lawyer. You can't get anybody. And the pain that you go through, um, I don't want to be negative because you got to be careful what you confess. Life and death is in the tongue, as the Word of God says. And so I don't want to be negative, but on the other hand, God knows that people do hurt other people and that the pain is real. And He does say, and hopes for us with who have been hurt, He does say He will comfort us and He will repay those who have hurt you. And it's sad that they go around, CPS goes around as though they're do-gooders.
Right.
And they are causing the most pain and the most abuse to children, emotional and mental and spiritual, that I have ever seen in my life. The screams, the cries, they will not let them be recorded of the children and shown. And I don't think it's protecting the children. I think they're protecting themselves.
Yeah.
Because if people saw the screams and the cries that I have seen of children, and I'm sure some of you have seen, that everybody that has a child that is not theirs, there's a mother, there's a parent. I don't want to leave dads out, but there's a parent hurting.
Yeah.
And parents have to go invisible because you end up in a society to where you're treated like you have leprosy. and some kind of disease or something.
Yeah.
The minute anyone finds out you've lost a child, you're marked
Yeah.
and you're looked down on,
Go let him out.
even without people knowing the story. Oh, I'm sorry, but you end up being treated like, I'm sorry if I,
Like a criminal.
yeah, I was going to say like a sex offender or something like,
yeah.
and I'm sorry if I offend anyone saying that, but you're treated
You're treated like a
horrid,
I
like
mean,
you're unfit.
you're like pretty much
you're-
any other criminal that's committed crimes against children, whether it's a rapist, a murderer, or whatever.
And if they see
you're
where these
treated
people
the same.
that adopted children, or they see where, and I know plenty of stories with fostering and stuff, if they see where there was abuse took place, they cover it up under the rug. But the minute something happens with a child that has been abused or grossly neglected or whatever, they want to expose it and blow it from the rooftop.
Yeah.
Because they want everybody to think
They're
this is what
sitting there hoping and
they want
praying
it to happen.
every day for some parent to abuse their child and kill them or almost kill them, so then they could be like, see, there's a child we could have helped.
And this is what we're protecting them from.
Right.
When it's a lie.
Every time we take a child, it's a situation just like that.
And I really want to say, you know, according to the Word of God and the Scriptures, for one, if you want to say you're taking a child because a parent has sinned, the Bible says all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And
right, so therefore no one is worthy to have children.
No one is worthy to have children. Yeah. And it's like they are a gift from God.
Right.
And the Bible says that children are a gift from God. He didn't make a mistake when he put them in your womb. And also, it's kind of like somebody who has everything.
Right.
It's like they had all these sheep, all these animals, all this land, were rich, were wealthy, or whatever. And then you got this one person over here, and the only thing they have is a one sheep.
Yeah.
And they love that sheep.
Yeah.
Regardless, that is their sheep.
Right.
And if people want to say, well, no, they didn't, regardless, it's theirs. And you say, well, I don't have that color sheep or whatever.
Right, yeah.
I want that color sheep. And you go take the only thing that person has.
Yeah.
And even if it wasn't the only person, the thing, it's their child. Yeah. It's not yours. And if I really wanted to take a child out, let's say that it was in harm's way.
Right, like they may have to be protected from their parent.
And while their parent gets help.
In severing that relationship,
never.
I feel like that should be the child's choice when they are old enough.
Exactly. I agree. If the child says, and certainly you don't want the child in danger where they're right there with the parent that say that.
It's smoking crack and blowing it in their face.
Yeah, they are doing something to harm them.
Right.
You don't want the child being put where they're in front of this parent and they got to say it right in front of them or whatever. Yeah. No, I think the voice of the child should be heard. Yeah. But the problem that we're having, the voice of the child is not being heard.
No.
And that
I think legally the child has to be 12 years of age or older before, in North Carolina, before the court will even let them.
And by then, what social service?
And most of the time, people aren't taking children that are 12 years of age and older.
Oh no, they don't want them anymore.
Way younger than that, yeah.
And it's like,
oh, you're old enough to have thoughts of your own.
And we can't get you to forget your mom.
Right.
We can't get you to forget your dad.
Yeah.
You have a lifelong memory. your parent,
Right.
and we can't get you to hate them or loathe them or think that they're dirt.
Yeah.
It's like, but yeah, I agree with you. The children definitely should have a voice. But let's say, um, in this situation to where a parent, I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart, to where, what was I going to say? The children should have a voice, but I'm stumped over that.
I was talking about not severing
Yeah, not
the
sad. Thank you.
relationship with their parent, even if you have to protect the child.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, lost my way there. Okay. If thank you. That even if the child has to be um protected for
Yeah.
whatever reason, and it's real and they need to be protected, there's no reason if I am living in love
Yeah.
and I really want to help that child
Right.
that I don't help their parents. And
Yeah.
I and that I don't help them. I give them a safe place to go to sleep at night. I'm not saying I've even got to interact with their parents except for to see the child, but I give them a safe place to go to sleep, but they still know their parents. And a lot of people will be like, I've seen it. It's awful. They'll be like, what if they don't ever get well?
Right.
They're hoping the parent won't get well.
Someone just asked a question. Do either of you know how to get spray paint out of a baby's eyes? I do not. I would suggest using Google.
I would use Google.
Yeah. That you can find the answer to literally anything as far as that.
Yeah, I love
there.
Google. I've learned that too. Yeah. But it's like yeah, pray their eyes are all right. Definitely.
Definitely, I would just straight off the bat say
Rinse it with cold water immediately.
like maybe not cold water because you don't want the paint to dry, but I would say room temperature, lukewarm water until you find the answer of something else you can use. My husband's going to be home soon, and he's going to be so mad. Yeah, I would definitely. I would definitely suggest use lukewarm water and rinse.
Oh, I'm glad.
Until, because usually that's what poison control would tell you, is to flush the eye out for 5 or 10 minutes. But if you are still concerned, then definitely Google it to see if there's anything else. But I would use just lukewarm water.
I would definitely Google
and flush
it. Yes. Yeah.
constantly.
I pray they're all right.
Yeah.
Eyes is nothing to play with. Yeah.
Anyway,
but what I was saying, and I'm sorry if I kind of got distracted when I couldn't remember, and then trying to make clear what my thoughts and share them is, and I'm sorry for anybody who disagrees, but you're wrong.
And this is America. You have the right to your opinion and to be wrong.
but the truth is, there is scripture that says, and it's like, if you're not that child's parent, you are coveting them. You're breaking several of God's commandments. You're lying to the child. You're trying to get them to see you as their mother or dad, and you're not.
Right.
And I've heard people who want to use the excuse to say, well, it takes more to being a mom or dad than having them. That's a lie.
Yeah.
That's all it takes. Yeah. And no, you should do more. You should take care of your child. You should love them. But when they want to use this excuse, it takes more to being a parent. No, it doesn't.
Right. Everybody at some point would have had social service walk in on
everybody
they were doing.
Everybody
and had their child ripped from them.
And that's another thing. But what I wanted to say is, because the Bible says, honor your mother and father, for without them, you would not be here.
Yeah.
That is clear who your mom and dad is.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if the person doesn't like you, if they don't like the way you're parenting versus the way they parent or whatever. Right. They are your children.
That's the other
that problem. Should always be honored.
That's the other problem with CPS too, we was talking about, is they're very inconsistent as to what the rules are as far as what is abuse, what isn't abuse. You have some social workers saying, you need to spank your child. And then you have other ones saying, if you spank them, you're abusing them. And it's like, well, which is it then? Like, why don't they have a set guidelines as to what to go by? And why can't they share that with people?
And I'll tell you another thing.
Just like with me, after I went to court and all of my charges had been dismissed and everything, it's like I could never get them to tell me why was I being investigated. I'm like, why am I being investigated? And they're like, well, we received a report and everything. And I'm like, right. And we've already went to court and proven that that was false. So why now
Right.
am I still being investigated?
Somebody wanted to adopt
What
a child.
is it that I did?
They got to say them.
Right.
And that is what it is. It is Hitler's dream. If he was a child abuser, what social service is doing is Hitler's dream. And if he had been a child abuser, and they are child abusers, something needs to stop because they're not accountable.
Okay, so I think this person's trolling.
I was thinking they were.
But I thought that because of the name and everything.
Okay, but they're not accountable. Social service is not accountable, and they use protecting the children to cover up anything that you could see that's being done to these children. Yeah, I could have filmed some of the incidences that I have seen social service doing, and it's a horrid cruelty I've seen them do to children. It's ungodly. It's very wicked and cruel to do that to a child. What I've seen them do.
Yeah.
And
I tell them like your experience with Lucian when they came and took him from here. Because of an allegation that I had been around the child. Those pretty much is that
they love their mother.
That I had been around.
This is their mother, and
it's like I was allowed visitations and stuff. I was allowed to come visit here.
And they said she could live with me as soon as the case was closed.
Yeah.
And that she could come back and live with us.
Changed, and 3 weeks later they came.
They were always changing social workers.
Yeah.
And they could have one go on vacation, and I would be scrutinized all over again because now one's went on vacation and she doesn't know they've already did a home search on me and everything. And go, I have nothing to hide. Right. It's like, so I was like, okay, if you need to go through the house again, right. And I'm sure they did not do this to the foster people. And it's like, interrogate them the way that I was over and over again. And with each social worker, honestly, they got meaner.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think they were going to the meaner level to where they could have someone who's turned over to their conscience, really heartless,
right,
who could come in here, grab the children, and do what they did to them. This is like you're in your own home, and it's with disbelief that this could be done to you. You are in your own home.
Like, being held at gunpoint, and some of them do. If you do resist, they will call the law, and men with guns will come to your house and hold you at gunpoint while they remove your family members from your home.
My grandson, when they
and imagine like being a child with that happening.
I know he still wonders because I love him very much. I love his sister, my granddaughter, very much. I love them very much. They both were aware that somebody strange was in our home, and they didn't know why. That something awkward was going on. But for him, he was older, and he was even more aware that what was going on was not right.
Yeah.
And he was scared.
Sissy was still young enough that anyone could have probably taken her out the home, and she wouldn't have thought much about it,
But she did know who her grandma was.
Right.
She knew who her mama was, and she followed me like a shadow everywhere. And she would be aware that
Yeah.
when time had passed and they hadn't brought her back and let me see her, she would
Right.
be aware that something's wrong, even if she couldn't say it. Where's my grandmama?
Right. Yeah.
Where's my mommy? And oh, it gets so much worse than that. Not worse than that that way, but in another way, it's like, where's my brother?
Yeah.
I'm just saying it I shouldn't have said worse than that, but in what I
It's
mean
stacking.
is it's
Stacking on
stacking,
top of
yeah,
that.
adding
Yeah.
it because um my grandson, when they did that to him, um and he was more aware, he was crying to me and saying, Grandma, I don't want to go. He knew. It was like I might as well had handcuffs on my hands.
Yeah.
I was changing his diaper before he went, and I had to call in late for work because of this.
Yeah, they didn't even want to let
And
you
I was
change his
still in my
diaper.
pajamas. Yeah,
It's like
they did. I was fixing them, getting ready to fix some breakfast, change their morning diaper, fix their breakfast, and everything. And I was really disturbed that they hadn't eaten, and they didn't
they
care at
didn't
all.
care. No.
And so they traumatized him right away. And they're standing there, two of them, and um, they may have, well, had those rods in their hand,
Right.
right? You,
Yeah.
and it's like he said, Grandmama, I don't want to go. I had always protected them, always, and he knew I'd always protect him, and I know I could see it. He did not understand. Why can't you protect me from them?
Right. Like, why aren't you stopping them? Why are
Why
you
aren't you
letting
stop?
them take me? And because it's like he was old enough to know that what was happening shouldn't be happening, but he wasn't old enough to understand
And then when he wouldn't accept
that.
these people right away, supposed to be
Right. Like
in
they
a
had been
foster
there like
home,
2 weeks, and it's like, they
they had been,
expected them to
they
call them
told
mommy and
them to
daddy.
call them mom and daddy. My grandson wouldn't. That no, you're not mommy, you're not daddy. He knows who his mom and daddy is. And so they ended up saying, we don't want this one, for social service to come and take him, and that he was a problem child. He was 3 years old.
Yeah.
To take him somewhere
And they were
else.
trying to have him seeking psychiatric
And they
treatment
were going to put him on
at 3 years
medicine.
old. Yeah, and it's
Social service was
illegal.
trying to put him on medication
And it
at
is
3 years
illegal
old.
to give a child medicine
And I do
for
want to make it
psychiatric
clear that
stuff.
I'm aware that we could end up be getting in trouble for speaking up, because there's been social workers that they didn't realize what they were getting into.
Yeah.
And when they saw how corrupt social service is, they got out of it.
Yeah.
And social service went after them and their children.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very deadly, terrible thing that's going on in our society. And what is feeding it and making it worse and keeping it going is people coveting other people's children. What can't you, be satisfied with what God has given you?
Right. Well, like me now,
So,
like now that I've lost my children, it's like I don't go around looking at other people's kids going, oh, I want that one, because I can't physically have more now. I got fixed permanently when I had Sissy, because I thought,
you were
okay,
satisfied.
right. I'm
Right.
like, I got what I wanted both times, and two is enough for me. That's all that I want. Plus me and their father was separated, and I'm like,
You weren't going to have,
yeah,
excuse me, you weren't going to have any more.
yeah, I didn't want to have any more. And it's like, so now it's like, if anyone would be justified in wanting another child, it would be me,
Right.
and I physically can't have one now,
But the Bible does say,
I,
thou shalt not covet. That's
right.
wanting what belongs to someone else.
And thankfully I don't want children now. I spent many years after losing them just like like being baby crazy, that
And
I want a child, I want one right now. I need to have a child now. And we'll get to that question in a minute. Because that is a good
that is a good
question.
question. Yes.
It's something that me and you've actually talked about a
Yeah,
lot.
I like that question. I'm glad they brought it up.
Yeah. But at the same time, because I don't have children, I get the gift of being able to help others with their
Yes.
children, where they get to have a break from their child so that the integrity of their relationship and bond can be maintained. So that, especially if you're by yourself, that, and you're raising a child, you need help. And there's a lot of people, mothers and fathers, who are by themselves and need help. And I get to be like
I'm
an
glad you
aunt.
said
I get
that.
to be like an aunt to them,
I'm glad you said that, because where you said that everybody is vulnerable, this could happen to anybody.
Yeah,
If you go through a divorce,
yeah,
if you go through a breakup, whether you're married or living together, whichever
right,
the case may be,
right.
as husband
You
and
had a
wife,
family
you had a
together.
family together, and you break up, you are very vulnerable to
Yeah,
social service getting you.
yeah.
Because if you do not have family support, say your family is the
One of the
ones
people
wanting
you
your
need to,
child,
yeah,
or wanting to hurt you in such a cruel way, because families do that to each other sometimes, and
yeah,
it's very sad. Um, so if there's a member, you don't have any family, any babysitter.
yeah,
If your babysitter's like, I'm here today, gone tomorrow, you are vulnerable to
yeah,
social service
yeah.
taking your child.
And even trying to get a child into daycare can be hard too, because there's a lot of times daycares are just full, and they're like, yeah, we're not going to have a
And
vacancy
daycares
for 3 to 6
aren't
months
open on
or a
Saturday.
year
They're
or
not open
second
on
shift.
Saturday. If you call in every Saturday that you are, you're going to lose your child. Then you're going to lose the child.
Right.
So no man's an island. It's not something you can do by yourself with raising a child.
And you as a grandparent having to
I
do
was
that.
a single grandparent, and I did everything I could. I gave everything I had, and I'm sure I aged it
Quite a bit.
quite a bit from it.
Just the stress, let alone the
But
actual
um,
physical labor.
I'm so grateful to God that I was there for them and could be there for them. I wished I could have did more, but I couldn't do any more than what one person can do. I did more than actually, I mean,
There's a lot of
I,
parents that still have their children in this town that
well,
couldn't do
I mean,
what
I
you did
did
as a grandparent. Yeah.
by myself.
There's a lot of them, they don't even have jobs and still somehow can't take care
Yeah,
of their
Sissy
kids.
was 4 months old then, and she was only sleeping like 2.5, 3 hours, and I
Yeah.
would get up.
Yeah, she had started shortly before that sleeping all night, but then it's like something
After that
happened,
happened, yeah.
and I think that's probably what made it worse too. She could sense, even at that age, she could sense my presence wasn't there anymore.
I do agree with that. She's
And
always loved you. Yes.
Yeah.
Before, well, go ahead and get to that question.
Yeah, I was going to say we want to get to the question now. So, what about when a mother walks away from her baby and child? I think that the same rules should apply.
Thank you. I couldn't have said it better.
Because me and you actually had talked about that when I was before
I'm
I had
still
children.
not their mother.
Before I had children.
Before Amanda ever had children, I tried to bring her up in every way according to the Word of God. Yes, I believe in the Word of God. I believe in having a healthy relationship with God before anyone.
Yeah.
And that relationship, and I want to say to mothers or anybody,
right.
That relationship will sustain you from beginning to end of your life. Yeah. Because in the end, you are the only person you will never lose.
Yeah.
And but I tried to bring Amanda up the right way, and guide her. And one of the things I guided her with being a mother, just like that, was being a person.
Yeah.
First of all, was respecting and loving others
Yeah.
with what they have. And if you ever had a child, for example, I would tell her, if you ended up in the worst scenario situation,
Right.
strung out, and you absolutely said,
or
I don't want it.
right, or you just thought you were too young or whatever, and that you weren't ready to be a mother.
You just weren't in the right mind and
Yeah.
heart. That
It's
is
just
still
like,
not.
here,
I don't
take my
want it.
baby. Right. I don't want it.
It's still not mine.
Right.
It might be my grandchild, and I would certainly have to call me grandmother because it's my grandchild.
Yeah.
If it wasn't my child, if it was a stranger's child,
yeah,
I would pray to God that I could help that stranger so social service wouldn't hurt them or other people who might want their baby and not honor their relationship. But a lot of times I've seen people, they'll be like, what if the mother doesn't get help?
Yeah.
That's not for us to judge and question.
Right.
I'm not their God. I'm not their creator.
Right. And that mother, it could be a couple months, a couple years,
or if they die
20 years later or never. But they could, just the possibility that they could want to heal their relationship with their child, and it's like, I think you should allow for that child to be open to receiving that healing no matter what age they are. And so you should never try to tarnish that relationship, even if it was the worst possible scenario where they say, I don't want it,
and they die with a needle in their arm.
I would still tell them that your parent loves you.
Yes.
Because I think really for someone to do that, I know it sounds like they're not loving them, but I think what it is they're actually saying they do love them, but that they know that they are not able, for whatever reason, that they know there's something wrong with them, that they can't.
When we
give
went
that
through the
child
bad
that
time
love.
with your breakup with Donnie,
Yeah.
which is the daddy of my grandchildren, and I will always love him for that. I thank him for what he gave as a grandmother, that to my grandchildren, your children that I love with all my heart. And it's like, even when y'all had the breakup,
yeah,
and everything, and he could be a sly thing at times, and it's like, but no matter how bad the feelings that I had for him,
right,
because how I felt,
and
how he had hurt my daughter, which caused the breakup, which we love you, Donnie. I know you're not listening, but I love him and we forgive him, and all is well with our relationship. But I never revealed, I know, not that I didn't reveal it, but I always told my grandchildren, no matter how I felt about their dad, I always told them. I would even show him a picture, lotion, because Sissy was infant in the crib, sleeping most of the time then. And I remember bringing Lotion the picture. You had a picture of the three of y'all in the room before Sissy was born, and it had their daddy in it. And I had showed it to Sissy when she was awake a couple times herself. But I said, this is your daddy, and he loves you.
Yeah.
And whatever form of degree of love that is, they do need to know that.
Yeah.
Even if it's not what we would call love, because they're not in their right mind and heart. Say they're evil, they're wicked people. Most people are. The Bible says most people go down the wide road to hell. Only few go down the narrow road to life.
And there's a huge disagreement on like what actually is love and everything, but I think, like, when I'm saying that, I don't think of it as being a lie. I think of it as that they love you as much as they are able to. And that's true for everybody.
I agree. And I
Some
know
people, maybe, they're so cold hearted and evil that they can't
I've
express
heard
any kind of form of love or affection at all.
I heard of
But they're still technically loving as
I'm gonna
much
get
as
tissue.
they are able to. You know what I'm saying? I'll get some.
Thank you.
I'm
Right.
gonna get to her comment.
Oh,
in a
but
minute.
wait a minute. What you said, that I heard you, and it's like, and it's like that I agree with you because I've heard of a parent. Now I heard the story. I didn't witness it, but I heard it, and I certainly believe it. The child was left in a trash can. The mother was strung out on drugs. I do thank God the baby was saved and rescued.
Yeah.
But the relationship, as bad off as somebody would want to say that mother was,
Right, yeah.
we have all sinned and come short of the glory of God. And I would pray.
And you can't really say as a human being that you would never do something like that because you don't know that.
Except for the grace of God, there goes on.
Right. Something could happen to you one day where you're just so out of your mind that you do things that you would never think you could possibly do.
The mother was on drugs. Right. And I'm not excusing that.
Right.
Because we've all got something we need to be set free from.
Yeah.
And I thank God 30 years ago, I'm a recovering alcoholic. I went in recovery in 1989. I've been sober 30 years. I've learned a lot and I've grown a lot in those 30 years. And pray though, one thing you do always have is a heart.
Yeah.
And what would you want done for you if it was you?
Yeah.
Well, this mother, she lived and died a drug addict.
Yeah.
She sustained a drug addiction that carried her all the way to the grave. But when she was in the hospital, her daughter found her. She wanted to find her mother, and I commend her for that. She wanted to find her mother. And when she went to the hospital, the mother was dying from drug addiction. And she looked at her daughter and she said, I love you.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah.
We've all got something need to be set free from. And most people, according to the scriptures, will never be set free.
Yeah.
Whatever your sin is, I pray you will be set free. But whatever it is, I pray you will be set free. But the Bible actually says most people go down the wide road. But just because somebody's sin is different than somebody else's sin doesn't give them the right to come take somebody's child.
Right.
Do I believe that that child should be put in a safe place?
Right.
If their parent is, you have to protect them, yes. Right. But you don't have to destroy the relationship with their parent.
Yeah. So as far as her question, it was the same lady who asked the question. I think that you're female anyway, judging by the name, but I might be wrong. They said, I believe CPS is backwards, but my own biological mother walked away from me and no family stepped up. So in my case, it was appropriate for CPS to be involved. And I do agree. What we're talking about is like not necessarily the CPS involvement. And we have mentioned that a few times, which is the main purpose of this channel. But tonight we're actually going beyond that on the more moral responsibility of anyone involved in a situation with an abandoned child or a child that has been
I think that
removed by
I'm
CPS.
so sorry for your loss too.
Yes.
That's horrible. And
feeling rejected by a parent and abandoned by a parent is one of the worst things you can feel.
Most of us, and I don't think you ever really, it takes years. I don't want to say you won't ever.
Right.
It takes years
to
recover because my mother was, even though
you technically grew up in the house.
I technically grew up like you, but in the house with them, but it was the same.
Right. She didn't walk away because society would have looked
bad on her, but she'll do everything. But she'll do everything she could to destroy my life and try to make me look bad to society.
Yeah.
So it was actually worse with having her there. I mean, so I do thank God my dad, once I was born, he was possessive over what's his, and that
Yeah.
included me. So I'm glad,
Which he had his own
but
issues
he
and
had
was
his own issues.
physically
But I
abusive.
am glad I know my mom and dad and who they are. I am sorry I was allowed to be as harmed. Um, Not only me, but my relationships too. With she's tried to hurt me with everything I love, and I love my after God, my children and my grandchildren the most.
Yeah.
But of anything that you could ever have on life, I think
And
your
by the way, this
relationship.
is the same person who is working with my sister to keep my children
Yeah,
from us.
my mother, her grandmother, is the same one that is trying to tarnish her relationship to her children.
Yeah.
She's a very evil woman.
Yeah.
Um, my mother is. So my heart goes out to you. Like I was going to say, most people will lose their mother, whether
Yeah.
it's through death or
Right.
most, unless you're a child that dies and you had a mother love you and you died as a child.
Right.
Most of us will lose our mother. I lost mine much younger because even though she's still alive, she's really evil and dead inside. And so my heart goes out to you.
She kept my brother but left me.
I'm so sorry.
Your mother
Mm.
actually tried to cause you to be
My
abandoned.
mother actually drove off and left me when I think I was 4 or 5, but
I think.
yeah, I was 4 or 5, and I actually remember it. I remember it.
Yeah.
She put
Picked
my
up your brother
brother,
and sister in the car.
and yeah, I'm a twin. She
Yeah.
put my brother and my sister in the car. My sister was the golden child. I was the outcast, and my brother was used for his services
Yeah.
and being a flying monkey. And now she's breaking his heart.
Yeah.
And
He's started rejecting him now.
but I actually tried to let my brother know you're better off because you're seeing the truth.
Like you said earlier, it was because he was a divorce.
Yeah, you're seeing the truth. You're seeing our mom for what she really is.
Yeah.
And by any means, I'm not telling a child not to see your parent for what they are.
Right.
Most people are evil. And if
Yeah.
your parent is evil, you should see
Yeah.
them for what
Right.
they are because you don't want to be evil. You want to, prayerfully, you want to become like Jesus and
Yeah.
strive with all your heart to be him, like him, not him, but like him.
Yeah.
And
To be a light in the world.
be a light in the world. And being a light, I'm sorry. She being a light in the world, that is part of it. If I seen you had a child, um, and you were hurting, you were going through a divorce, anybody can take advantage of you if
Yeah.
you don't have anyone there for you.
Right.
And it's really a susceptible time
Yeah.
for a parent with DSS lurking around. They are
Mhm.
looking for children.
And even
to
other
take.
people,
They have
not
sales.
just CPS, but there's even
Oh, other
who try
people.
to influence people to abandon their children, or to get an abortion or whatever. There's people who are influencing the destruction of family, um, and
Oh, that's what I was going to say, though. As a child of God, as a person who wants to treat other people the way I would want to be treated, I'm in my right mind, even if a parent isn't, and they say, "Here, take it, I don't want it."
yeah,
Um, I have a responsibility to what I do with that.
yeah,
Take the ball and run with it,
right.
lie
Are
to
you
the
gonna right? Are you
child,
gonna lie to that child and pretty much like
want it to call me mom.
the way I see it is you're basically taking that child and selling your soul to
You
Satan
are.
because you have put their life, their entire life is now a lie. And it's like, how are they ever going to set themselves free
You have
from that? You've damned them
you
to hell basically
you
because
yeah.
you're you're forcing a child to live in sin. and they don't even know.
You've robbed their
And you've taken away their choice.
Their identity.
Right. And their choice.
A child should be able to choose.
Because that's the issue that I have with it. I don't believe in, them, calling someone mom or dad that's not their mom or dad,
I know who my mom and dad is, and I'm glad.
Right. And you don't want to lie to the child. You do want to protect the child, even if it means they never ever see their parent again. But I don't agree with them intentionally trying to sabotage that relationship or any hope of one in the future with their parents.
My mother is what we were going to say.
This is what I was going to say real quick, is that, and like I don't have all the answers for every single situation like this. I know there's some very complicated
situations. But I do have
situations.
I do have a basic.
Okay. She doesn't accept my parents, but she didn't want me. What did she expect? I'm so sorry your mom did that to you.
Oh, thank you.
This is what I was going to say. I think it's different. Because you can have parental figures that are not your parents.
Oh, yeah.
You can have male and female role models that aren't even your caregivers. You could go to school and have a teacher or a coach or something that's a role model to you,
I was talking about because most of my teachers, they are just there for students.
It's just an example.
Like like my mom, but I mean, like my mom with my sister, that was
they favored her too.
A golden child. She was an honor roll student. She had mostly book sense. I had dyslexia. I learned differently. We're all smart, but in different ways, and it's like, but I learn differently. Teachers, most of them don't want to teach you. They want to. This is another subject, but they want you to open the book and teach yourself while they get the glory. Right, But I did have a couple teachers I was just talking about last night, and they were good role models. Right. I started crying when I was telling the story about two of them last night, as a matter of fact, and they were good role models, and they didn't have to be my parents. They never told me they weren't. They never tried to get me to think of them that way.
Right. Even if, say, one of them would have taken you to protect you from your parents, they wouldn't have had to been like, "Oh, you call me mommy now," or
not let me see my parents.
Right.
And not have where I am the one who am able to say, "Hey,
right,
I see what you are, Mom. I need to protect myself from you and distance myself. I need to protect my children from you because DSS loves people like my mother."
Yeah.
She's one of them that lives in the subdivision, looks good. She wants to look good to society.
Yeah.
She wants, like the Bible says,
whatever is in
whatever's
now,
in,
that's what she wants to be in and doing.
She will have social service eaten out of her hand. But she's very deceitful. She's got all these masks.
I'm actually surprised at how stupid people must be to be deceived.
I'm plainly and honest with social service.
Right.
And it's like, and I'm not going to kiss up to anybody. I bow to one.
Yeah.
And his name is Jesus Christ and God the Father. And it's like, so I'm going to be honest with them and open. I have nothing to hide and nothing. And I know I heard somebody say, if they could do this to you, they could do it to anybody. That scares me.
Yeah.
Because I live a clean life. In the Lord, and I thank Him.
You had a job working. You still have that job, but a promoted version of it. But you work in the government. You was working in the government then.
The Lord's blessed me with a good job.
You were a government,
but I'm
employee,
only one person. I can't go to work.
Government employee.
I can't go to work, be the babysitter, and
you can't be at work and here at the same time. So you have to have a babysitter.
And that's what I'm saying.
And then they want to use where you have a babysitter.
Oh, they want to do a background check on your babysitter and everything like that. And then you got people scared to death. Don't include me with this. I don't want to be involved. And So I don't want social service doing a background check on me. So now they're not going to babysit for you.
Right.
And your subject, if your babysitter says, I'm here today, gone tomorrow,
Um,
you've
her,
lost the children.
her next comment, that's what I was trying to work up to and getting to. Her next comment, it was my choice. Maybe it's hurtful to her, but I guess for me, a parent is one taking care of you. I don't think any child should be forced to say mom and dad. That's kind of what I'm saying. I think you should allow the child every opportunity to have a relationship with their parent, and for the parent, if you are able to be in contact with them somehow, for them to
The mom and the
know
dad,
that
either one.
right, that they can feel comfortable with visiting their child, even if it has to be supervised, because maybe they're like your mom and your dad and they're dangerous, narcissistic, abusive people. Um, and so the child needs to be protected.
But see,
So
I
whether it's a
still,
situation that or an
I
abandoned
still honor
situation,
my
I would
mother,
say
that she is my mother.
right, and I would say that I could see it being different if a child is old enough to be like, for them to then identify that person that, that I know that this is my mom and this is my dad, but that you're my parent or whatever, and but they're grown. They're old enough to make that decision and be like, you
Right,
are like
but
a
the
mom
choice
to
has
me,
been taken from them. The choice has been
but
taken from them
when
when
they're so
young, and social service has taken them, and the child is so young, you won't let them see their parent. You're trying to erase the memory that they have of their parent, and you're trying to make them see this caregiver as a parent.
right,
Now you have taken their choice, and you're
yeah,
brainwashing them into forgetting their parent
yeah,
and trying to see you as their parent when you're not their parent.
yeah.
So, and then when they get old enough to say, hey,
By the way, you do have a
by
parent.
the way, you
You
have
have a
they want to
biological,
say a birth parent,
biological.
then they want you to think of them as coming home.
Right. So by then they've already
They're not going to
brainwashed the
admit it that I
child.
want you to think horrible of them.
Right.
It's a given. They
Yeah.
want you to think horrible of your parent. And if you do choose to honor your parent,
Yeah.
and have a relationship, a healed relationship with them, whatever
Right.
happened,
If it is
um,
comfortable to have.
they will guilt trip the child
Yeah.
that you have betrayed me, you have turned your back on me for
Right.
your parent, and I did all this stuff for you.
Right. There's a lot of,
So,
and like I said, this isn't even talking about CPS. This is like after the fact, like what happens to the children after something like this,
I would never deny
or
a
in the
parent.
most extreme of situations.
I am sorry for what happened to you, and I would encourage you, as a child of God, as a person, when you leave this world, when I leave this world, we don't leave with anyone else.
Yeah.
Even if we all die at the same time, we don't leave, our spirits don't leave our body with anyone else but ourselves.
Yeah.
And there's only one that we have to stand before, and He's our Creator.
Yeah.
He would have us to honor our mother and father,
Right.
for without them, you would not be here.
Yeah.
If they are evil, yes, He
You
would
have
have
to
us to
protect
acknowledge the
yourself.
truth. Protect yourself,
Yeah.
protect your children, your grandchildren. I wish I would have never let my mother back in my life. She hurt my daughter with her children as a result of me letting her back in my life.
Right. The only reason why you have me is because you left, and
She was part.
you got away from your mother to
I
protect me,
I
and that's the
actually
only
got
reason why you have me is because
the
you
only reason I have
got
her,
away from
and I
her.
was able to have this loving relationship. My daughter's my best friend besides Miranda.
Yeah.
She's
If you're watching,
if you're
hi,
watching
Miranda.
Miranda. But it's like the only I left from the state my mother lived in to try to protect my child from her, because she was already doing, I could see it, and everything she could to try to trickery. into trying
Especially
to
money. Goodness. I
take
guess
my
'cause
legs out from under me. She
and
even behind my back, I said I was a recovering alcoholic. I went recovering in 1989. Um, Shortly before I got pregnant with Amanda. And my mother would go behind my back when I would go to Alcoholics Anonymous, and she would try to talk Amanda's daddy into leaving me because she knew I could not financially make it on my own.
mhm,
And because she wanted to leave me vulnerable so her and CPS could dive in and take her from me.
yeah,
I moved to protect Amanda from her.
yeah.
So I shouldn't have ever let her back in my
And it's like
life.
20 years later, she's still doing the same
She's still
stuff.
doing the same stuff. And I
But
actually
you
opened my
didn't
heart up to her.
learn.
I was hoping that when she's seen everything she's did in my life turned into crap,
Yeah,
it's obvious to everybody. And it's like,
right.
you
It's
don't,
like you've
even if you tried not to see it, you
like
can't
the
help but
less
see it.
you've been around her, the better and better your life has gotten and the stronger you've
And
gotten.
my
And
daddy told me when he was dying, he told me, I want to say at least 2 or 3 times, but it was more than that, probably the last 2 or 3 years. And, but he told me several times, I would say 3 or 4 times, probably in the last year. He told me, Tammy, please listen to me. Do not let your mother back in your life.
yeah,
Don't let her around your grandchildren.
yeah,
She's evil. I know your mother. She will hurt you.
yeah.
And um, even though I'd forgive her in the past, I still didn't. I still protected.
Right. You still maintain those boundaries and, kept your distance.
Yes, and if she needed me, if she was dying right now and nobody else was there, God forbid, I wouldn't want to be it. I'm just being honest. She's hurt me. She's tried to destroy my life and punish me for being born. Um, and she's tried to take everything I love. And the way that she should love, if you want to talk about unfit mother and everything, the way you've left me at the park and the
Oh, yeah.
way
And God forbid you or
she would,
Glenn mention that to
she
her.
wants to look like an angel to society. I did mention it to her. And she's lied and said, I forgot you. And I know
Yeah.
she didn't. But, anyways, the Lord sent an angel in the form of a police officer that found me. My mom lied and said, "Oh," she put on quite a show. Anyways,
Hmm.
I remembered our last name. It's a very difficult one, and we're the only ones in the world with that last name right now. And that's how he found them, is
Yeah.
I remembered our last name. But she, I don't remember where we was before I said that, but
Yeah, we're coming up on an hour also.
okay, I would be there for her, is what I'm saying. Even though, but and I have forgiven her. She's my mother. I'm not the one with the evil heart. She is,
Yeah.
and I love her as my mother. I honor her that she is my mother. To be honest, I hate her in a way.
As
I
my mother.
as my mother. I hate her evil ways. But she did that herself. Nobody
Brainwashed you and put it
brainwashed
in
me
your
and tried to
head,
put that
right?
there and tried to get me to forget her. As a matter of fact, the reason I remained in the house, she looks very good to DSS and social service.
Yeah.
And she's tried to do everything to make me look like a bad person. It's a narcissist. My mother is a narcissist.
Yeah, how did I saw you've got a couple other comments I need to read too, but I just seen this question. How did you forget her child? Didn't you say you have a brother and a sister? What was they there? Yeah, they were all playing at the park together, and her brother's her twin.
My brother's my
Her
twin.
twin. And
I love him
she
with all my heart. Yes.
picked up the other two, stuck them in the car, and drove off.
And the way that it was always, I was an outcast in the family. and the black sheep, the one my mother did not want.
And your brother was like the lost
My brother was the
child,
lost soul. He's the
where
child she
he
really didn't want, but she had him to shut my daddy up.
right.
And
That's a whole
he's been
thing by
used
itself.
his whole
Yeah.
life by her.
And
And
he's spent all of his life just trying to get her acceptance and approval and
I would like
love.
y'all to pray for my brother and my sister, even though she's been the golden child, and I never thought that me and her could ever heal because there's just animosity between a golden child and an outcast. The mother,
And
or whatever the parent is,
right, and your
teaches the
mother,
golden child to loathe the
yeah,
outcast, and the outcast.
Your mother bred that hatred between you.
Yeah, and I think my sister did have a responsibility of her own to see how I was being treated and say, have a heart herself, no, this is wrong. But I think in the later years after I had children, she's probably, where there was no connection between me and my sister, she's probably lied and told her different stories. I remember one time being in the room with my sister, and I thought, Lord help us, what kind of face is my mother going to be putting on? Because we're in the same room together.
Yeah.
And so, what kind of mask is my mother going to put on with both of us
here? Right.
Here.
Yeah.
But my sister recently, because of what my mother's doing with
my children,
her children, with her sister,
where
what she's doing now,
are isolating them from
now they're
family.
kicking my older sister out. That's always been the golden child. I'm 55, she's 57.
Yeah.
And my sister, God bless her, is eyes are opening for the first time in her life about the truth of her mom. But the point I really want to make at the end,
wrapping up
at the end of the day, and I don't know you as far as a person that I've met in person, but in spirit and our communication, the messenger we have on there that's asked very good questions and made very good points. In spirit, and
it's a good perspective.
It's a good perspective, yes. That I know you and the spiritual connection of this communication we're having together here, and I thank God for it. But what I was saying, at the end of the day, when we leave this world, all we have is us before God, and He does want us to honor our parents. And the destruction of that relationship, my mother chose that.
Yeah.
Society didn't do that to her. My mother chose it.
Right.
And I've had to grow up, and it's quite awkward when you do grow up and you have so many people who
have
close-knit families. So at least they put on a good act if they don't. And it's like you're sitting there like a sore thumb, and you can't explain this to them about how evil your mother has been to you your whole life. And she's tried to destroy your life. They're going to see you as a bad apple right away. A child that doesn't love her mother or feels that way about animosity about her mother or whatever. But I do love my mother. And I've come a long way with, I loved her probably before I saw her for what she was. I had to see it over and over again. I loved her as much as a child could ever love their mother.
Yeah.
I told her, when I grow up, I'm going to live right next door to you. She probably thought, God help us. I've been
I'll
trying
never
to get rid of you all your
you.
life. And it's like, don't move beside me. Anyways, but
if we're talking about my sister, then yes, and my sister has been brainwashed by her, and I think that was through money, because I remember when I was growing up, even though we weren't physically involved with her, and I rarely talked to her over the phone, she would send material gifts. She would send me money,
yes,
and all this. Oh, I love you so much, my granddaughter.
Well, I seen she was trying to brainwash him.
Yeah.
And so I broadened the gap.
Right, she was trying to
Um,
bribe me, and so
she was
you
trying to use materials, but I made a verbal point to let my daughter know that, Amanda, that your grandmother is going to brainwash you by buying you things. And anytime God gives us things, we want to say, thank you, God. But sometimes the motive of the giver, you thank God for whatever good thing, gift you got.
yeah,
But sometimes the motive of the giver is evil and the
yeah,
person is not with God. So I made it clear to her what her grandmother was doing, that
yeah.
look at the character, not that she's given you all these wonderful packages and presents,
Right.
but
See through to the motive
see
behind it.
through
Be
it
appreciative and grateful for
and
receiving
tell her
it.
thank you
Right.
and
And be
thank God above
polite.
all.
Right. Be polite, you know, and courteous
But
and civil,
she's
but
tried to brainwash
be
them.
wise and be
If she
aware.
couldn't get them physically, to get them mentally.
But unfortunately, my sister is
I
not.
well, I mean,
She's not as insightful and
she's
introspective and
and she's a very selfish person. I mean, she's very
yeah.
selfish and obviously cold hearted.
She
It breaks
she
my
thinks
heart.
she thinks that she's very empathetic, but the only empathy she has is for herself.
Amen. And it breaks my heart to see how cold and actually evil she's become.
Let's see, I'm in my final appeal. Oh yeah, she did say something earlier too about let's see, they didn't even do a background on the safety resource, just us in my own case. Oh, so you having a case going on. Okay. I was wondering what you meant until I seen your last question, and then that one makes sense now. I honestly wish my mom and my mother could accept each other. That's another hard and difficult thing too. I wish that both people would be more open in those situations, but I understand there's probably a lot of feelings on both sides as the child and as someone who's raised a child. Let's just say it is the most innocent of situations where I had someone's child and I
And they
raised them
never
and I
came
loved
back.
them. Right. And
But you didn't
now,
dishonor their
right.
parent as
Yeah.
having them
And that they
call
chose,
you
they
mom.
chose for me to be their parent as an adult. And now they're trying to bond with their biological parent. I understand there's a lot of feelings that could go on both sides, and it's a very, very difficult thing to try to mediate. And because there are going to be jealous feelings, there's going to be the jealous feeling of you are the biological mother, so you have something I'll never get to have, and then the biological mother being like, and you have this relationship and bond with them because you raised them
She's much
that
more
I
open
won't.
to that situation than me.
Yeah.
I'm totally
Yeah,
against
she's
that.
totally against
I'm
it. Yeah.
totally against it. If it's not yours, leave it alone.
Right. Yeah.
I can help you as a child, and
Yeah.
I love children.
Right.
I love
Yeah.
cuddling. I'm a very affectionate person. I will hug, I will nurture, I will
Right.
love.
You'll be a mom in every way, but you would never
I
allow
will
them to
never
call
allow
you
them to call me
mama.
mom or say, and no, I won't be mean about it either.
Right.
But I'm not going to lie to the child. I'm not going to let the child live a lie. I will be
Right.
your friend
Yeah.
as long as I live.
Right.
I'll be the closest friend you could ever have.
Yeah.
And I will love you. I will love you in truth
Yeah.
because I'm going to let you
Yeah.
live to serve a God that created you.
Right.
And He wants you to honor your mother and father, for without them, you would not be here. Not if they're good people,
Right.
not if they're Alice in Wonderland, not if they're your idea of a good parent, but
Right. Yeah.
she's not or he's not. We don't have that right to pass that judgment.
Right.
Who's worthy or not, because none of us are. We've
Yeah.
all sinned and come short of the glory of God. And I pray for us all to find forgiveness with God and with each
Yeah.
other. And
That's the other thing too that bothers me about this though, is there's there's this competition for the love of a child, and it's like
they have such a big heart.
it
We don't have
shouldn't
to compete
be
with them
that
for love.
way. Like children should be able to have a big family,
My
biological
grandchildren,
and non-biological,
speaking of which, my grandchildren, they knew they should always know that this is their mommy.
Yeah.
They knew and should always know that I'm their grandmother.
Right.
That loves them.
Yeah.
The more love a child has, the better off they're going to be.
Right.
And it's like,
and so there's really no reason.
I had no
for
competition with Amanda.
People to be cutting people, out
Amanda
like that
couldn't be their
stuff.
grandmother, and I couldn't be their mommy, and neither did we want to be.
And that's just one thing I wish too is I do have a spiritual perspective. I believe that we're all connected and we're all a part of God in some way, and that we're all one with each other.
He gave us life, yes.
And that we shouldn't be
we
fighting
should
with
never
each
try
other.
To that
especially over our children.
It's in the Word of God where all the fighting come from. It's from things that you want for yourself. And he says, and why don't you get those things? Because when you ask with evil motives.
Right.
And
or too, because you're in a belief, you're in or my perspective of that is too, is you're fighting because you believe you don't already have that. You're coming from a place of lack, and so you think you have to take it from someone else because you aren't able to get it yourself for some reason.
Right.
Or that you are
that
lacking.
Brought me to that, what you were just saying. Anyone that's hurting, I pray for God to bless you and touch you right now. Yeah. And I do believe God is with us in this. And I believe his presence is here. His spirit has the power to touch, heal, and wake people up.
Yeah.
And we do need people to wake up. Social service could still have a job without hurting people.
Yes.
Because
they need to help people.
They need to help people.
They need to actually help people.
If your mother brought me you and said, I don't want her.
Right.
That doesn't give me the right to do evil and break God's commandments all the way through.
Right, yeah.
And start getting you to dishonor your mother and your father.
Yeah.
For without them, you would not be here. So we all know who that is.
Right, yeah.
It doesn't give me the right, because your parent did evil. It doesn't give me the right to do evil.
No.
But I can love you, and I should always encourage a relationship between you and your parent. Only when there's the fear that I'm going to lose something.
Right, there's that greed.
The only way that
nature.
That's it. Because the only way I'd lose something is if I'm coveting something that's not mine.
Right.
I know I'm not your mother.
Right.
I want your mother to get well. Right. That's what God wants us to do. If your mother is not well,
you're supposed to want the best for
I
everyone
want
else.
Your mother to get well.
Like that's the problem is too, is our society here in America. We, it's good to have competition in business and stuff,
but not with each other. Right?
But the problem is because of that mindset and encouraging that kind of mindset, they encourage the mindset, and even competition between companies don't have to be as vicious as it is for two companies to both make it, but what am I trying to say? That not just the competition, but it's the way that they're competing, because you're not competing to say, like, you're not competing by making yourself better, by improving yourself and you focusing on you and doing what you can in your
job. As a person.
Right. And, as a person or in your job or in your family or whatever, you're competing by tearing someone else down and trying to take what they have and destroy their image.
That was well put, yes.
Because they're encouraging the mentality that I have to destroy other people in order to succeed, because I'm not good enough to succeed without everyone else being brought down.
Oh yes,
that's not how it is. You should be working on yourself.
I'm glad you put
to improve yourself, and you should be lifting others up as well.
My great grandmother on both sides of my family stole their child's child. My dad was stole from his mother.
Yeah.
And he hated her all the way to his dying day. I'm sorry. His grandparents taught him to hate her. She
was poor.
She was poor. That's how they got him. Her husband died. He was an adulterer, like my dad. Um, maybe I shouldn't have said that. We're not talking about that right now, but he was evil in that way.
Yeah.
And that broke my heart more than anything. I love him. I forgive him. I have to try to love myself. That's one thing I was wanting to get to, and forgive myself for the mistakes I've made, and heal and recover from the harm
that you
they've
received
done
from your parents,
or other people done.
biological or non-biological,
people in the world, right? And it's like
CPS
but
or whatever.
His dad died with a bullet through the back of his head, committing adultery against another man with his wife. She was, of course, the woman didn't die. The only one got shot was my granddad. And of course, right. And he died.
Your grandmother
had 9 children. Yeah. My dad, I think, was 3 months old. And she needed help from her parents who lived a few doors down from her.
Also he couldn't drink milk or whatever, right?
Yeah, he was having problems, right?
Yeah, like Sissy, in a way, if you think about it, because she had all kinds of stomach issues.
So she went to them for help.
Yeah.
And she had to work 2 jobs.
Yeah.
A lot of the older children took care of the younger children. I mean, thank God she had that.
Right.
But he was 3 months old. So she brought him to her parents and asked for help. And when she would go every week to wash his clothes, to get his clothes and wash his clothes every week, his whole childhood.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't let her bring him back home when he got well enough with as far as the milk he drank and being able to have more of the older children watch the younger children.
When
he was too young for that.
Right, yeah.
And they wouldn't let her have him back
home,
and him to hate his mother.
Yeah,
and that breaks my heart. That anger and that hate, it hurt him. It took him to his grave.
Yeah.
And I had even told him one time he hung a picture of his mother on the wall, and it was shocked me. And he went, and I know my daddy loved me as far as much as possible, humanly possible for him.
He could, yeah.
And but when I went in the room, he said, Tammy, look at there. He was having a moment, and it was a moment I've embraced.
The only positive.
I loved his mother. I felt so sorry for her all my life. Yeah. And that they had, even though I wasn't taught to sympathize for by my dad. My dad, I saw
you were just naturally empathetic.
I'm naturally empathetic, and I saw how she was done without anybody sitting there and teaching me to feel this way. I was actually, if anything, taught to feel the opposite.
Right.
That he hated her. And that's all I seen except for that one moment. And he said, look, he said, there's a picture of your grandmother. And he said, you look so much like her. And I thought, oh my God, is he going to beat me? And I didn't say that, of course, because I was afraid of him. I really thought, and his sister, which was his favorite sister, I hope none of the other ones are listening because we love you all.
They know that.
Yeah, I'm sure it's obvious, but he loved her mother. And
they
butted heads.
Opposites on that.
Yeah. And I butted heads with my daddy twice before he died over her. And only when I was at a safe distance over the phone. And it was shortly before he died the second time. And I said, Daddy, please quit. She's your mother. Yeah. No matter what you think of her, even if what they said was true.
Yeah.
She's your mother.
Yeah.
And you should honor her for that. Yeah. Honor that she is your mother. Yeah. The only person that's going to take that before God, if he died not honoring her,
right,
that the only one's going to stand before God for not honoring his mother is him.
Right.
He is breaking God's commandment. by
Well,
not honoring his mother.
I don't
And
know if you're still here because I know you asked this quite a few minutes ago, but in my final appeal, I am in my final appeal. Any advice? Um, really don't know as far as that. I'm not sure what state you're in. Um, and I'm not sure as far as final appeal what you mean. If you mean because the way the appeal system works down here in North Carolina is we go through an appellate court. I was giving a an appellate attorney who handled that for me, and that was
are you talking about the one before?
no, I'm not talking
Okay.
about. I'm talking about after I lost my
Oh,
rights
okay.
when we were appealing. So the first appeal, I was given an appellate attorney for like indigent parents or whatever, for parents who can't afford one. They give you one attorney after that to appeal. And but if their appeal doesn't go through, and there's like certain requirements, and it depends on what the way the court answers the question of their appeal. Um, and because of the answer, she could not continue to do another appeal for me. So I had to do the second appeal by myself, which was to the North Carolina to Texas. I know a little bit about Texas. My ex lives in Texas, and he has family out in Texas as well. And I lived there for a few months, but um, I know Texas supposedly had recently gotten reformed a couple years ago, um, where they're supposed to stop taking kids the way that they were. Um,
And that's one thing I wanted to say.
but the way that it worked here, real quick, is after the appellate court, there's actually like a specific a court of appeals. That's one layer, and they rejected it. And so then I, on my own, I think I had 90 days to file an appeal, which there's specific requirements, to the North Carolina Supreme Court. And I did that. But then by the time, and it takes a long time for these appeals to come back a lot of times, way longer than they give you to come up with another appeal to send back in to another place. So after that appeal, I don't remember how long it was. It might have been like 9 months later that it was 9 months later. It was 9 months later that they denied it. And so then the next level after that was the US Supreme Court. So this would be the third appeal that I would have had to file. But they only gave me, I think it was like 15 days. And
I believe it.
and the requirements.
They're very tricky. They're very,
the
social services, very tricky.
and the requirements they have, like you have certain measurements, and like it was something
And
like they wanted you to print out like 60 booklets of your appeal and send them in.
yeah, social service,
I
that's
mean, you
another
get that
thing.
they
They're very
wanted me
tricky.
to make booklets.
The foster home or the home that wants to adopt your child,
Mm.
wrongfully so, they're coveting them. There should be about, um, like what you said. I mean, we should be like one body, helping each other, loving each other, helping to heal each other, and
Yeah,
look out for each other. And I mean,
people
really be
people
one
need
big
to
family.
people need to support
Um,
each other.
support each other. And it's like, so what I was going to say, the same thing can go on in a foster home, an adoptive home, and they'll write it down to the court. Oh,
They'll
how
brush it
wonderful
under the
this is.
rug.
Well, if it's bad, they'll brush it under the rug.
Yeah.
If it's neither here nor there, or even if it's something good that happened, oh, look how wonderful. If it happens in your home and you're the
Then
one they
it's the
want to take the
opposite.
child
They
from,
overlook anything good or positive.
or
And if it's like any slight little thing they could try to misconstrue as something bad, they will. Like they're only there to try to make you look bad.
right, and like that one time that they thought that I should discipline my grandson, and excuse me, social services sitting right there. You want me to discipline my grandson? And it's like, for one, I am more the nurturer. I'm his grandmother.
Right.
But two, I know if they're in my care and I'm having to be the grandmother while you put their mother through being interrogated in every
Right. It's like
corner.
it's like you basically have her locked away in an interrogation unit somewhere,
Exactly.
more or less.
While I take care of the fort, and it's like, still, I'm gonna properly discipline, and even if I don't like to or I don't want to, because I want to just be the grandmother, giving them love and
Right.
nurturing. Um, But if I was going to discipline them, it certainly would. Why would it be in front of social service? Who, no matter what I do, you put them in timeout and they cry. And you should see the horror story that social service is going to write about that. But if it was done in the foster home and an adoptive, the home where they want to adopt them, it's going to be, and it was so wonderful. They put them in timeout when they needed to be put in timeout. And yes, the child cried, but that's going to happen. And it's like, they'll make it good, and
Yeah.
whatever you do, they'll make bad.
Seems like generational curses in both y'all cases, and
I agree.
it is.
It is.
Which that's one reason too why I'm speaking out.
We need to bless each other.
I believe that my children and I are going to be the end of this generational curse. For one, it did give me a purpose in life to speak out and stop this from continuing, because there's so many families that it's happening in, and
one is too many.
Yeah, and one is too many. It needs to stop.
It needs to stop. This is cruel.
Families especially shouldn't be targeting other family members.
The social worker, she made fun of my grandson in court. 3 years old, she made fun of him. And the horror cruelty that she was putting through, I mean, it killed me inside. And she knew I couldn't say anything.
Yeah.
And the judge might as well not even be there. I mean, he's just oblivious to, they let social service do whatever they want.
Right. It's just a show.
I could not believe, if anything, that judge should have put his hammer down and said, you're no longer the social worker. When you can get up here and make fun of a 3-year-old child like that and pick on him and bully him. Yeah. This child has to be hurt, and you've just pulled him from his roots, from the people that obviously love him and that he obviously loves. And it's like they took everything from him.
Yeah.
And then wanted to wonder why he was crying and acting out, and trying to cry for his family. And these people are saying, call me mommy and daddy. No, you're not my mommy and daddy.
Exactly.
And he's a bad child because he won't call them mommy and daddy and live the lie they want him to live.
Right. And maybe he is acting out and having behavior.
He wasn't a bad child. He was a good child. He's a truth bearer.
Right. And it's like, and maybe he was acting out. I mean,
they took everything he loved from him.
How would an adult respond?
He had a pacifier.
Armed men came and removed them from their family and everything they loved. All they had left was their sister. And then they removed them from their sister and threw them out into this place where they're around a bunch of strange kids and strange adults that are all already looking at him like he's a terrible child.
And then they told them to come get him. They didn't want him because he wouldn't call them mom and dad. They were going to adopt his sister.
Yeah.
And social service went and got them, took him out of the home and left his sister. Right. I mean,
no. If I was a social worker, I would.
You're not going to help take care of.
Right,
which
like,
they shouldn't have been there anyway.
Right. It's like, so you can't handle both of them when we need to find somewhere.
And sure enough, when she got the age of
the same age as him.
When she got 3, the same age as him, they said, no, come get her. We don't want her either.
Yeah,
and she went back into the foster system. And
because I want to wrap this up because we're getting on an hour and a half.
Okay.
As far as the appeal thing, I would suggest trying to getting as many free consultations as you can with an attorney. And there's a lot of times even if an attorney knows that you can't afford them, they will give you advice anyway. Um, because but I know for me I couldn't. The cheapest one I found was
They make
$10,000.
their deals behind the
And
scenes
the I'm not
before
talking
you
about
ever
that.
go in
I'm not
court.
talking about that. I'm
Yeah,
talking about for an appeal, like a real attorney, not the pretend one they gave you.
it is a
Um,
pretend one.
but um, but for the appeal, the cheapest one I could find was $10,000 up front for them to start. And the other one I wanted to get was $30,000 up front for them to start.
But for children that have been,
So what I would do is
sorry,
I would look. I don't know about,
me
yeah,
and you are
kids should
going
be
on.
kept together. So I don't know
Yes,
specifically what the so-called reasons for your termination are. If you've had your rights terminated, I don't know what kind of appeal you mean. If you just mean, because the only thing that I know you would need to appeal for is a termination of parental rights. But it could just be a custodial thing, which if you still have your rights, you should be able to fight for
and my
custody
heart
at
goes
any
out
time.
to you.
But if it's for termination of parental rights, you need to look into what the code, because they'll have a code um, saying that this was their reason for terminating rights. Like one is something that claims abandonment, like financial abandonment. Another one's
Oh
like
yeah,
physical abandonment. Another
if
one is
you are poor,
abuse.
it's actually called neglect.
Yeah.
I've had them words with CPS before.
Yeah.
They said that is neglect. If you're poor, you can't provide. So that's neglect.
Yeah.
I don't consider that neglect. I consider that a poor person
So,
who needs financial assistance, help,
yeah.
whatever it is. Like what you said, be one
Help
body,
each other.
help each
Yeah.
other, give love to each other.
So I would look into what the laws are. They're saying terminated your rights, and try to get evidence showing that that was an incorrect finding. And then I would also try to look into what laws CPS broke and file that as
We really
well.
need to get
I
together
was I
and do
was
that.
going to
Yeah.
do that because I thought that them using disability would have to be illegal, but it turns out that's not in the U.S. Supreme Court, that they actually can legally take your child for any disability, physical or mental. Custodial, she lied about everything, and
Oh,
they didn't look at my proof to show her lies. I believe that. As long, I would just try to do as much research on that as you can. I'm not as familiar with the custodial stuff. Google is a great search tool. And
I'm
so I
sorry
would
for what
try
you're going
to
through. Yes.
look specifically for Texas because every law is different state to state. Like I have this book that I'm going to start reading in January, which is all the family laws in North Carolina. But you can just as easily Google your state's family laws, and so you can have codes to reference if you need to. CPS got involved because of her, but now she's got them back past 2 years, and it's all come on me. Yeah. It being if she's had them for 2 years, that's scary to me because the
She'll use
longer,
that. Yeah.
and CPS will
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Um, because they'll try to claim, well, they've already settled where they're
It's
at,
terrible.
they're
It's
already
awful.
bonded, all kinds of stuff.
But
So
yet they can
I
jerk
would,
them up from a home with their parent and not say,
yeah,
well, they're already bonded. They're settled where they're at.
yeah,
But they'll take them from their parent, put them in a home and say, well, they're bonded. They're settled where
yeah.
they're
They
at.
did that with
It's really
mine. They had been in
backwards.
the home for like 2 weeks with somebody else.
Oh,
Like,
yes. 2 weeks. Yes.
but yeah, I do want to wrap this up. So as far as
Wait, I
that,
want.
wait, let me finish this. As far as that, just research specifically, Google for your state specifically what you can do because the laws are different state to state, and look up the laws and everything. Um, and if you can, try to get an attorney outside the county. Um,
All
That's
right, I
part
want to
okay.
say this.
That's the only advice I can give
I
you. I'm
know,
sorry I don't have any more legal advice
I
as
know
far as
she wants to
that.
wrap this up, but I do want to say this story about my great grandmother.
Grandmama Searles.
Yes, which
Yeah.
happened like my
This was
dad, but
your
it's
mom's grandmother,
yeah,
right?
it's on the other side of the family, and her mother, my great grandmother, um, she had 11 children, and I believe it was 11. It was either 11 for my dad and 9
Right,
for
yeah.
her, or
That's
vice
what I was
versa.
wondering is
I,
if it was
I
11
really
for,
can't remember which it
but
is,
I
but
know, remember
it's
one was
9 and
11
11.
and one was 9.
And my grandmother, when she had my Aunt Jane, she she became sick after she delivered her, and my her mother lived down the road from her, like my dad's mom, and she was supposed to be helping her out. She had her daughter that lived with her, my
Mm-hmm.
grandmother's sister,
Yeah,
a very hateful, evil soul that coveted my grandmother's daughter
yeah.
with
Jean,
with the mother. Yeah, Jane, Aunt Jane. Yeah, and Caroline was the
the evil,
sister
yeah, the evil
of my
sister.
grandmama, Searles, and so she was the evil sister, and she coveted my grandmother's child. And my grandmother was always born with like a joyful spirit from the Lord, and
Yeah,
quite a
she's
character and loving person to be around. And
even after losing her
even
child.
after, and so
So pretty
um,
much her mother and sister conspired to take,
and
was it
this,
her youngest child?
I think it was her youngest
I think
child,
it was too.
and she ended up the my grandmother the child was made to leave the room. She wouldn't give her daughter back to her when she got over being sick.
Yeah,
It was during the time of the depression,
yeah.
and when she said, "I'm okay, I'm better," and she came to get her child, and her mother said, "I'll take you to court to repay me for everything I've spent on her." Well, they were in the depression.
Right.
She could not take her mother to court to get her child back. And she made, as my Aunt Jean grew, when
Had her husband died by then?
her husband died, my grandmother's husband died when she was 40. She never remarried.
Yeah.
She always loved him, and she always had a picture of him on the wall, no matter where she lived the rest of her life. And anyways, when
So they
um,
wouldn't give her
they wouldn't
back.
give them their child back, and so whenever my grandmother would go over to her mother's house, which had her child, she would make my Aunt Jane leave the room
Yeah,
whenever my grandmother would go there,
yeah,
which was the mother. And whenever her children would be out, like during summertime or after school, the children would go out and play. My Aunt Jean was made to see her brother and sister playing in the yard and was not allowed to go play with them. And I asked my grandmother, I said, one day we were alone.
how old was she? Like about
She was about
90?
90. And it was right before she went into the retirement home. And I said, Grandmama, and I said, I didn't have to tell her what I was talking about. We were cleaning the dishes, and I was beside her at the stove. And I said, how long? It was just me and her. This was a conversation that didn't take place
Yeah,
between family all these years.
yeah.
And I turned around and I said, Grandmama, how long will the pain be there? Will it ever lift?
Yeah.
You know,
Like,
how
does
long
the
does it take to
pain,
at least lift?
right, does the pain ever go away? Or is
Right. And she turned around and looked at me without asking me what I was talking about. She knew what I was talking about. And she said, Tammy, the pain will take you to your grave. And so, what I'm saying, there's a lot of mothers that are hurting and children that you have been taken from your parents and taught to loathe them or that they're a disgusting object somewhere in the world that you don't care about, you don't want to know, you don't love, you were taught not to, you were basically kept from them and to erase the memory of them.
Yeah.
And any obligation you were taught to have was not to them, but was to the people that took you under any circumstances. I just want you to know there could be a parent that's longing, loves you, and that has hurt for you and always will hurt for you throughout their whole life. Have mercy.
Yeah.
Do for others what you want done for you. And that's a hard squeeze for you to get through when somebody has done that to you and put you in that situation to where you have to, in order to bring healing to you and your relationship with your parent, that they're going to try to make you feel guilty. Like, no, you should have never been in that situation.
Yeah.
We can help each other without taking the honor of as that child's parent. And for parents that are hurting, that you've already had this done to you, and you're living out your life now in a pain day by day. We can only be we can't control everything, and if they've hurt you beyond anything you could do to stop them, no man's an island. I just encourage you. At the end of the day, we will one day go before the presence of God to go one place or the other. I pray for your life and healing and recovery because we've all come short of the glory of God. I pray for your life and being born again and healed and set free from any sin you need to be set free from, because we all have had something we needed to be set free from. I pray for that for you. And if love yourself. Love yourself well. We are the only person we'll never lose is ourselves.
And that's the other thing too, is that you can be your own parent and your own child. You know,
I've had to learn to be to love myself as my own,
so
to mother myself.
And we're not going to get into it. And your own lover, but like pretty much any relationship that you long for, you can find fulfillment in yourself.
And that's only with the relationship with God.
Yes.
Because in the scriptures where it says, God, you are all I have and you give me all I need, He really does.
Yeah.
And He's always listening to us. And I pray my life, I can, that I do and I will and will continue to live a life that glorifies Him. And where I fail or have failed, I ask for His forgiveness and anybody's forgiveness I need forgiveness from.
Yeah.
And I pray to live a life where I don't bring harm, but I bring good.
And I think the main thing to take away too, just like we had one of our dogs pass away today.
Yeah, I've been crying. It's like a good part of the day.
And I have, like what I told my friend earlier who helped me bury her, is that my advice for anyone, whether you're the parent or the child and you've had to experience this loss, whether you lost a parent and you never got to heal with them before they died, or you never found them, or if you did find them and they rejected you, or if you were the parent and you lost your child and right now there's no sign of healing, or you found them and they rejected you, whatever stage of this you're at, for you to just not let the pain make you wither away and disappear.
You do need to learn to give yourself that love they didn't give you.
And to allow that pain to actually push you and motivate you. Like I have a workout regimen now and I do yoga every day. And that's what I told my friend, is that, I'm going to allow that time when I'm working out or when I'm doing yoga for me to release those feelings and allow that pain to push me to work out even harder than what I did before.
And actually,
And just like this channel, I've allowed the pain to push me to helping
reach out to
others.
others.
Yeah.
The law,
As otherwise, then their loss is for nothing.
yeah, the main thing about us sticking together and looking out for each other, we can love each other without taking anything from
Yeah.
each other. And we should never do that. Thank God for what He's given us, and He blesses us more than enough. Our cup runs over.
Yeah.
And we need to share that blessing with others.
Yeah.
Without taking what's theirs.
Right. We should celebrate with each other when good things happen to one another, and we should mourn together when bad things happen to each other.
Right,
too.
right. Just like people want to be like, what if they never get well?
Right.
Shame on them. You should never feel happy about hoping somebody else doesn't recover from drug addiction or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's like because
that's evil.
That's evil because you want their
You're
child.
evil. You're wishing for evil to continue.
And it's like, but even if they don't recover, you can't take that child and teach it to dishonor its parent as its parent.
Right.
You can love it as a friend and protect it
Yeah.
as a caregiver.
Yeah.
And protecting you from that
And
environment. I'm going to tuck you in a
have-
nice, clean, warm home or cool
Right.
home.
You can have just as much love and the same kind of love as you would with
That
a parent
child
without you
being the parent.
Right, making them treat you like you're their parent.
When you're not.
Or call you their parent.
And it's like,
you can still have that same love with
that child will always love you and be grateful for you. I know even more so because it will not be with guilt that
Right.
I can't love my mother, or you're going to think that I've betrayed you and turned my back on you.
Or that I don't love you and I'm not grateful to you or something.
Keep your relationship real and truthful. And
Yeah.
it's like that child will love you.
Yeah.
For being there for them and their mother or dad. And we need to help each other. But the thing about social service, the courts are letting them have their way. The judge should, if they were really honest, they wouldn't even come in the room.
Right, yeah.
Because they're really not there.
Not be
they're
there.
letting social service do whatever they want. We have a problem with that in our society.
They don't accept any evidence that isn't coinciding with CPS. If it doesn't support what CPS is saying,
right? Because the truth be known, they wouldn't have ever
no
come and got my grandchildren.
No.
When they weren't, they would have, they should have been helping me out. Oh my goodness, I see you were by yourself here, holding the fort. You're not married. You don't have a babysitter. You're depending on a babysitter to help you out with being there for you so you can go to work and everything.
Right.
We want to make sure we give you all the love and support we can to make sure you're able to do what you're doing for these children. It's what
the last comment we got was from Daryl. I think I've seen him on here before. Says, "Oh my goodness, your mom is pretty too. So wonderful for her to be your advocate." Yes, it is. We have a great relationship, thank goodness.
Yeah, thank God. Yeah. We've got a good relationship. And I want to say this for Amanda. It's been hard for me to speak on this subject. It's a very painful and deep one, can be, as a mother, a grandmother, co-parties existing in the society together can be a very painful subject. And I'm glad to have a daughter who God's given her the courage, the words, the insight with getting her information. And she's always been like that with going into painful areas that I didn't want to go, including in history with the Bible and stuff. I'm like, it's good. I've got it good right here. I know what the New Testament says.
Yeah.
I know what it says the blessings are that are carried over from the Old Testament to the New Testament that we received through Christ. I'm good. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, I don't need to know those. I don't need to go into the pain of researching this. I'm glad she does because she's helped me learn a lot, and I'm glad she's willing to take a risk at society that can be quite cruel on this subject and other subjects. I'm glad she's willing to step up to the plate for us as a congregation and community to try to reach out, be a comfort to parents that are hurting. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And to children that
Yeah.
have been put in situations they should have never been put in, grown or young. God bless you. And may God open your eyes and your heart and mine too, yours
Yeah.
too, always to do and say the right thing, no matter what other people think of you.
Yeah. Thank everyone who came out, and especially thanks to everyone who
For your
commented.
comments.
And, I wish the best for all of you guys. And of course, as usual, once this is uploaded, I will be putting the links to both Facebook groups. No matter who you are, if as long as you're supporting CPS organization being reformed in every state in America, and also supporting for disabled for the U.S. Supreme Court to write laws to protect specifically disabled people, because right now their laws state just the opposite, and that needs to change. So we need a new amendment made for parents and for disabled people. And there will also be a group posted for those of you, specifically for those who have lost children. And it doesn't matter the situation, whether you're a parent whose child was taken and alienated from you by the other parent, or if it was CPS, or if you
It
lost a
happens, yes.
child to death, or, military, or any other
It's a great deal of
thing.
pain.
Pretty much
And-
anything involving child loss, you can
and-
join the Life After Loss group.
Right. And whatever, when talk about loss, I'm not shunning and minimizing anybody's loss. But the bad thing about loss
Of this kind.
of this kind is nobody sympathizes with you. Well, I don't want to say nobody because we certainly do. But it even has to be hidden, almost as if you go underground
Right.
because you're shunned. You're
Yeah.
treated like you have leprosy. You're treated like um, you're wicked scum of the earth.
Yeah, you're treated like you're a spot on society that
When it's
needs to
actually the
be
opposite.
rubbed out. Yeah,
It's actually the opposite. And so you're not even given comfort for the
right.
loss of your child.
Right. Instead, a lot of people, like I've mentioned that on here before, a lot of people think that because I've lost my children, that gives them the right to just call me whatever they feel like calling me,
Sad.
and unleashing all their anger on me because I'm an easy target, because society deemed it that way.
Amen. I love the way you put that.
Yeah. And
I
so.
got one more thing I want to end with. I'm sorry, I know we went longer
Almost
than we
2 hours.
planned, but the story about my aunt Jane, I
Oh
wanted
yeah,
to
you never
say,
finished that. Oh wait, yeah, you
yes,
did kind of. Oh no,
I
you
kind of
didn't
did, but
finish
there's
the
one
finish.
part
Yeah,
that
that
I've got to
part.
share. My great grandmother, after that conversation I had
When
with
she
her,
went to retirement home.
she went to a retirement home where she said you would take the pain of losing your child to your grave. She went to a retirement home, and so I was pregnant with Amanda, and my aunt Jean came to the baby shower, and when she went to leave, my grandmother got $10 every month from all her children,
Right.
except that one.
Yeah.
And which she knew. My Aunt Jean was in and out of the hospital for depression all her life. She had a loving husband who loved her, held her hand, went through that every step of the way with her.
Was a good husband.
Yes. And he died. And which I know killed her, but when he was a good person, he had a good heart. And
So
she
at the
was
baby
too.
shower,
Yeah, at the baby shower, and my grandmother was too. And it's like at the baby shower, God put it in my heart. I had to tell her because I knew nobody in the family would speak about it or speak up because of the anger, the wrath of
it's getting
violent
sight from
hatred
some
and
family
anger
members. Yeah,
of her sister. The
yeah,
mother had died. The
yeah,
sister kept it going
yeah,
all their life, the division between her and her mother.
yeah.
And when she left the baby shower, I ran out there to her, Aunt Jane, Aunt Jane. And she stopped and turned and said, Yes, Tammy. And we stopped at the side of her car. I said, I have to tell you something. My grandmother didn't ask me to say this.
Right.
No, she didn't ask any questions. Like I said, it was a
Right.
hush
And no one
hush
even
thing.
talked about it.
Nobody
Right.
would talk about it. But God put it in my heart that I had to tell her. And I said, Aunt Jane, I said, I got to tell you something. And she said, What, Tammy? What is it? And I said that your mother loves you. Your mother has always loved you. And I could tell it just took her heart. And she turned and put her hand to me like that. She said, You know, we never talked about it.
Yeah.
It was a hush hush. And my aunt, her wicked sister, I don't even like to call her aunt, but
Yeah.
because the cruelty of what they did to
Yeah.
her, taking her child from her and causing this division between them when the whole family could have been loving each other.
Right.
But my Aunt Caroline, her, my great grandmother's sister,
Yeah.
there was so much hatred there that there would have been a violent earthquake that people would
Yeah.
have paid for trying to bring love between them, which I faced that violent earthquake. I confronted her a couple of times. But that's
That's a yeah.
another video.
So
But wait a minute, I want to say something. So my Aunt Jean, she told me, she said, I even went to live with Momma with her one time and said we never talked about it. I know my grandmother was concerned about bringing it up
oh, yeah.
and the earthquake she would encounter
As a result.
as a result. But I said, Well, I've talked to grandmama, I've been around her, I've asked her, and she told me she'd take the pain to her grave. I said, She loves you. She always has. Well, after that, my grandmother received $10 in the mail, but it was anonymous.
Yeah.
She knew she'd face the wrath of the devil through Caroline.
But she got like an extra $10.
She got $10 and it was anonymous.
Yeah.
And we all know who it was from. She died after that. She died after
Shortly after.
go to the rightful person who was her mother and said, Your daughter died.
Yeah.
Um,
And that was good for you, to be able to speak up about that and so that they would have healed because otherwise she would have died and that would have never really fully healed,
right. Yeah.
because, you don't want to talk about it. Who wants to talk about that?
And who the pain.
Especially when you have other family members that want to flip
Her
out and
sister
get
was so
defensive and angry and
her
violent.
sister was so cruel to my grandmother, and I confronted her a couple times, and I got a lashing or two or three,
Yeah.
a whip across my leg, spiritually speaking.
Yeah.
But I knew it was coming,
Right.
and I was willing to take it to stand up for my grandmother with her daughter and her children, her family, our family.
Well, I'm glad that we finished that on a positive note. But yeah, so now we're coming up to 2 hours. So we're going to go ahead and sign off before we think of anything else to say.
I love you. I'm
Love
glad
you.
I could be here to help bring comfort and healing and guidance and to stand together for any of us.
Yes. Everyone have a good night. Thank you for joining us.